What's good, guys? This is Vahagraphy. I'm Vahagan, your rock and roll photographer. What did Jared Polin get wrong in his latest review video? The Sigma 200 f2 quote-unquote sports lens. If you guys don't know, I'm in love with the Nikon 200 f2. I'm in love with any 200 f2. The Canon version, the Nikon version. So Sigma does something crazy and comes out with their own 200 f2, but it's for Sony and L mount. There's been talk about, how does it perform with Nikon Z cameras with the Megadap adapter? Let's do this. Let's review this. Boom. I have some thoughts on this. I have some thoughts on the lens, the reviews I've saw so far, and what Jared Polin got totally wrong in his review. Now, there's been talk about, get the Sigma and you can get the adapter, the Sony adapter, and use this lens on your Z mount cameras. Why do that if you could just go buy the 200 f2 F mount version, mount your FTZ adapter, and it'll actually work perfectly fine? I don't know about you guys, but Sigma is still considered a third-party lens. Doesn't matter if it's made in Japan. I don't care about the price. I don't care how much you're charging for the lens. It's still third-party. It's not a Canon, it's not a Sony, it's not a Nikon. Resale value is very important, guys. Keep that in mind. When you're dealing with OEM lenses versus third party, Sigma, Tamron, Viltrox, they don't hold their value as good as the OEM Nikon lens, Canon lens. Keep that in mind. The other thing that you should keep in mind is you're not paying third party prices for this lens. You're paying a whopping $3,300. That to me is premium pricing. It might be worth it for you guys to buy it if you're a Sony shooter. It might be a phenomenal lens. To me, that's a big ticket item. And Sigma might be doing great things. It's still a lot of money. Okay, so keep that in mind. I've owned many third-party lenses. I've owned them all. I've never had issues with OEM products, but I've had issues with third-party lenses. So you're not going to get the same quality product that you would get with a Nikon lens or a Canon lens. So keep that in mind, and that's a big ticketed item. See, the thing is with Jared, I don't think he's actually owned the 200 f2, and that's the issue here. A lot of these YouTube photographer influencer types, they get these lenses for a week, 2 days, 2 weeks at times. They don't actually own the lens. They go out there, they do their review without actually knowing the lens, without actually owning the lens, without actually, marrying the lens for some time, and they do a review and then they have to give it back. So I don't think he's actually ever owned a 200 f2 Nikon. So he totally skipped the part where I didn't see any magic from these review samples that I see from a real 200 f2 bokeh king lens, Nikon or Canon. They have this magic bokeh to it that's very unique to this 200 f2 Nikon lens. He never mentions that bokeh-licious, that part that separates the real 200 f2 with this new Sigma 200 f2. Judging from the samples that I've seen, I could be wrong again. The other thing he got wrong was he's trying to compare it to a 5150 Sony at f2 to a 200 f2. Jared, my man, there's a difference between 150 and 200 millimeters. You can't compare these two lenses. One of them is a zoom that reaches all the way to 150. To me, that 200 f2 is a killer portrait lens, the Nikon one that I've actually owned and used, and I have experience with that lens. Just because lenses say f2, 200 f2, just because the title of the lens, they have it, it doesn't mean it's a special, awesome lens. It's not the same thing. I saw the sample images of this Sigma. Although being a great lens for the price, it doesn't look like that special magic you get from a 200 f2. So just because the title says 200 f2, you're getting an f2. Are we really getting an f2? Now, a third-party lens comes out with the same thing, quote unquote. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing, judging from the photos that I saw. How does this lens perform autofocus wise? How fast is it? And how reliable is this lens? Because I could tell you that Nikon 200 f2 f-mount version, the Nikon 200 f2 is still the king of bokeh, and this doesn't come close. Again, judging from the samples that I saw online. I don't care how many features this lens has, the clicks, this, that, the switches. I know what I get from a Nikon 200 f2 f-mount. And you can buy one for under $3,000. Now you're going to adapt it, right? On a Z mount, you're going to adapt it. You have DSLR, you don't need to adapt it. But if you're using Z mirrorless cameras and you're thinking about buying this Sigma and using another adapter, might as well just buy the Nikon F-mount version, get all the magic that I'm talking about for less money. You're still adapting both lenses because you're going to buy that mega depth Sony adapter anyway, instead of a third-party lens, paying the same amount of money, probably more because it's a new lens. Yeah, you're going to buy a used F-mount, but still, nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to stop working. Even the version 1s are rocking right now, working solid. I'd rather just go that route. And the prices of these F-mounts, if you could find one, it's not like ready available. There haven't that many of them made anyway. But if you could find one, I see something special going on here. Yeah, another thing Jared Polin touched on is the 24-70 rumor, the 2.8, the Nikon rumor. I kind of agree with him in this segment where he said, well, everybody's doing an F2 right now. Why is Nikon still sticking with the 2.8? You know what? How about two versions of it? I just wonder why Nikon is not touching the F2, is not getting on the F2 bandwagon right now. They have the larger mount. I don't see what the problem is. This is why they made the Z mount, to have a larger mount. Why not get on the F2 party train and make a 28-70 so they can have that lens? I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what their thought process is, but the industry is moving towards the F2 with the Sony 50-150 F2, with the 28-70 F2s 7 years ago that they launched. Nikon has seemed not to touch that F2, not to enter the door of the party, the F2 party. Sony and Canon are way on its way, and people love that F2 lens, that zoom lens. I don't think it's a problem for Nikon. It's not the same sensor issue because Nikon is a lens maker. I mean, one of the top lens makers, so they make their own lenses. I don't see an issue with that. We should have already had that lens, the 28-70, or you want to stand out, 28-85. Even 28-70 f2, I'm cool with it. Let's just have one. So, Canon and Sony shooters don't tell us, oh, you don't have this lens. What's Nikon thinking, making another 2.8? I have to agree with Jared Polin. I think that the version 1 is fine. Leave the version 1 the way it is. There's nothing wrong with the version 1. Even if you have to pay for that LCD screen. Who cares, Nikon? Just make it. What's the problem? One theory that I have that might be true is that if you remember, the version 1 Nikon is made in Japan. The 24-70 Z 2.8 Z mount, the current one that we have, by the way, amazing lens, right? Awesome lens. So what if it doesn't have internal zooming? It's an awesome performer, okay? Optically, it's almost perfect. It's made in Japan. So this theory that I have of, well, version 2 is coming out without a screen, if rumor. But if it does come out, well, it won't be made in Japan anymore. And that's just a theory, cost cutting. Plus, you're going to pay $500 more for it. We're cutting costs, but we're charging you $500 more, I don't know, man. I don't want to get into the tariff talk. All right, because, it's a cost of doing business, camera companies. Maybe you guys should reduce what you make per year, Everybody's adjusting lifestyles. Maybe you should too. I have this strong belief that wherever the economy goes, maybe camera companies should make their proper adjustments. The first thing they do is start busting up the rates, busting up the prices so it doesn't affect last year's numbers, and I think that's wrong. Everybody should adjust for the better good of the future of the country and the world. So that's about it, guys. Maybe, like I said, that theory, the Japan theory, it's going to cut costs. They won't be able to make it in Japan anymore, and it'll be made in Thailand or something. It'll be the same lens made in Thailand without a screen. Internal zooming, if it doesn't have that, I'll be disappointed. But hey, Nikon, why not get into the F2 race? Get into that race. You should have been there already. You should have been there already. I love the brand. I love the cameras. I use them. This is my number one. But sometimes I just wonder, like, why are they sometimes so late to the game sometimes? Look at all these crazy lenses that, Sigma is beating you to this. The F2 party. Sigma is pushing the envelope. Nikon, a lens maker for 100 plus years, can't push the envelope, can't take chances, always comes out with standard 2.8 lenses. Push the envelope. Join the F2 party. Make a new party. 1.6, 1.8, 1.0, 0.95. Expand to the knocked. Expand, man. We're okay with size and weight. Trust me. I don't think anybody's complaining that they're using a 1.285 and they're complaining about the weight. I don't think so. So do the right thing, Nikon. And Jared Polin, you missed a few points. To you, it's like, oh, a new lens, guys. A new lens. I've never seen Jared Polin actually use an old lens other than his old camera that he uses for baseball. That's great. But I don't think he's into adapting EF mount to Canon or F mount. I think he's missing a lot there. He's missing a lot of special combinations and special pictures because he's not willing to just, hey, bring in the old technology with the new technology. I think to him it's just new. Whatever's new, I'm gonna use it. Or let me borrow it. I'll make a review and I'll give it back. That's not how it works with reviews. Be cautious when spending the money, guys. You're buying a third-party Sigma lens. It's not first-party. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. This is Vahagraphy. I'm Vahagan, your rock and roll photographer. Let me know in the comments. You agree or disagree? Let me know. I'd like to know in the comments. And rock and roll.